Jason X is here on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, released by Arrow Video. It can be found as a limited edition available at your local and online retailers. What I love so much about Jason X is that it knows exactly what it is. The movie is completely self-aware. It borders on parody of the entire Friday the 13th franchise, but does it in a way that doesn't feel totally self-serving. The film teeters on satire, all the while Jason himself plays it 100% straight. Sadly, this is the last time we get to see Kane Hodder in the hockey mask, but he's certainly at one of his most brutal here. If I had one complaint, it's the era-specific visuals don't look great. In fact, they didn't even back when it was first released. Still, the movie is a lot of fun and one that I go back to quite often. Jason X on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray has an aspect ratio of 185:1. As far as resolution, I will touch on this aspect in a few moments. The transfer also supports both HDR10 and Dolby Vision. For purposes of this review, I will be discussing the Dolby Vision transfer. According to Arrow Video, Jason X's transfer underwent a restoration and the 35mm original camera negative was scanned in 4K. Now, I found this description a bit interesting, considering, if memory serves, it was digitally scanned due to the visual effects heavy renderings, and I believe it was one of the first digital intermediates, so essentially 2K. I suspect the resulting transfer is more of a film out. Basically, the transfer was put back onto 35mm, but from a 2K source, and then scanned in 4K. So in a way, it is, but it isn't native 4K. I know, this is definitely a confusing transfer. As for what we see here, the transfer itself does look blemish-free. Grain is finely layered, almost to the point of disappearing altogether in certain scenes. I don't get the impression DNR was used, but the convoluted way the film came together, grain just doesn't present well here. Arrow's disc encode is strong with higher bit rates. As for detail enhancement, it's fairly minimal overall, especially if you have the Shout Factory Blu-ray. Some inherent softness remains, but the image clarity never reaches razor-sharp levels anyway. If you are one of those that likes to go over image detail with a fine-tooth comb, there are pockets of improvements here and there, but nothing to really hang your hat on, or mask as it were. The film's era-specific special effects are clearly rendered in less than 4K, which certainly stands out when watching it now. The film is a product of its time for better or worse. In this case, what we visually see in regard to resolution upticks. So where does that leave HDR and Dolby Vision? Thankfully, more of a noteworthy difference, but before you get too excited, the application of the grading is not going to be a revelation. It slightly accentuates the general color palette, mostly noticeable once the action of the film transitions into the ship. There are glimpses of punchier colors and the quote-unquote futuristic technology present on screen, and it's generally pleasing. Is it a night and day difference when compared to the old Blu-ray from Shout Factory? I would say it's a case of night and maybe later that night. I do think black levels are handled slightly better in this film than the previous entry on 4K, Jason Goes to Hell. Crushing is not as evident, but still occasionally can be seen, though it's not nearly as widespread here. As there are no real night scenes to speak of, except if you count the end shot, the darker interiors are conveyed well. Jason X on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray supports a DTS 5.1 as well as a 2.0 audio track. Once again, as with Jason Goes to Hell, the choice is made to port over the previous Blu-ray's audio track for this latest release on the 4K format. As I mentioned in my Jason Goes to Hell review, I really think an Atmos upgrade would have benefited the film's sound design especially well, given the setting and action used throughout the film. Gone are the natural ambience from Earth, replaced by the inner workings of the film's primary setting aboard the spacecraft. That doesn't mean there is less to enjoy in the surround environment. I think the overall output is immersive and at times wildly entertaining. There's also a bit of score pushing through on the regular, and it nicely rounds out general audio cues from the surrounds. Dialogue reproduction is clean and easy to hear from start to finish with no issues. The low end gets much more of a workout in this film than the previous entry, and it pushes through with satisfying results. Explosions and the slight reverberation of gunfire can be felt consistently, and the overall output doesn't feel generally lacking. There are a couple of new bonus materials included here with this 4K release, including a brand new audio commentary as well as an interview with the film's composer. There is a good amount of bonus materials ported over from the previous Shout Factory release, including general making of, documentaries, behind the scenes, interviews, trailers, and much more. I don't believe everything is ported over from previous releases, so you may want to hold on to those if you're a bonus features fan. For the picture quality, I'm going to give Jason X on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray a B. If you're somebody who buys their 4K purchases based purely off the picture upgrade, I have to admit there is very little reason to do so with this latest release. The quote-unquote 4K enhancement is minimal at best, and the inclusion of HDR and Dolby Vision offers subtle enhancements. If you're a diehard fan, this is worth the pickup, but for others, you may want to reconsider. For the audio mix, I scored it an A-. In my opinion, this was a sorely missed opportunity to include an Atmos upgrade, which would have elevated and possibly convinced fans to invest in the 4K pickup. As it stands, though, the 5.1 is perfectly serviceable and often entertaining in its delivery. For the extras, I graded them an A-. There are both new and old supplements included for this release from Arrow, and I think fans will find value in what's presented. There's a good amount to dive into for this wonderfully B-movie entry into the franchise. So that is my review of Jason X on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray from Arrow Video. If you're interested in picking up a copy for yourself, I will leave a direct link in the comment section. But if you have the disc already, let us know your thoughts down below. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.